everyone, and welcome back to another video. In today's video, I want to be recommending books to you based on books I would recommend for your church book club. Okay, so hi, if you're new here, my name is Jenna Van Mourik, and I read and review biblical fiction, and I have also published 4 biblical fiction novels myself. The first book in my series, Generations of Faith, an ancient historical Christian fiction series on the life and times of the early church, is called Jerusalem's Daughter, and it's available in paperback and ebook, as well as in hardcover, and the hardcover editions are special because in the back they include bonus content in the form of an organized Bible study and reading plan that goes along with the themes and chapters of the book. You can only get that Bible study physically if you buy the hardcover edition, because that's just what makes the hardcover special. In addition to having a beautiful cover design, it also has the exclusive Bible study. However, let's say you purchase the paperback or you have it on Kindle because you prefer to read with an e-reader, which I totally get. If you still want to access the resources in that Bible study, you can do so by going to my website, www.authorjennavanmourik.com/free. And underneath that tab on my website, I have so many free resources for my readers and other resources to help writers, where I basically, on that tab, I have uploaded the digital PDF version of those Bible studies. So if you wanted to, you could print it out at home just on regular 8.5 by 11 paper. And then you could go through it that way. Or if you were reading with a church group, you could go through it with your church group or with your book club. At a lot of book signings I have done, I have always loved hearing from people when they tell me that they are going to buy my book so that they can read it with their church book club. This has happened multiple times at multiple book signings that I've done, and it makes me so happy because this is exactly how I intended my books to be read and how I always hoped they would be read, and that's why I wrote the Bible studies and the reading plans. So my reading plans are usually between 4 and 7 days, but you could break that down into 4 to 7 weeks if you wanted to, and then go through each portion 1 week at a time, assign the reading to the book club, and then meet every week to discuss kind of those discussion questions and the devotionals and the Bible studies that went with it, which once again, if you're looking for, you can find at www.authorjennavanmourik.com/free. All that to say, when people tell me that they're buying my books because they're going to read them for church book club or for book club, it literally makes me so happy. It's my favorite compliment to get. It means so much. And so I thought it would be fun to do a video today where I recommend books to you based off of what I think would work really well for a church book club or a library or a book discussion group. And I also hosted an online book club that ran for 3 years, so I have a bit of experience figuring out what makes something fun and engaging for group discussion and then what maybe doesn't work as well. So let's get into it. The first book that I would recommend for a church book club or ladies discussion group on books is A Voice of the Ancient by Connie Lynn Cassett. Now, technically, I would recommend any book by Connie Lynn Cassett, but Voice of the Ancient is book 1 in her most recent series, and I actually think you could read through the whole series with your book club, and that would be so fun, because while each book stands alone, there is an overarching mystery that kind of goes across all of the books, a secret, if you will, that they are slowly uncovering throughout the series that I think would be so fun if you read through the entire series with your book club. However, if you want to rotate authors more often, I can understand why you wouldn't do that. So that being said, I would start with book 1. The reason that I would pick literally any Connie Lynn Cassett book, but especially this one, is because Connie Lynn's books are so exciting and action-packed and thrilling, and the characters are so fun, and there's so much good dialogue, and there's so much thrilling suspense in them, and plot twists, and all of that kind of fun stuff that they make for such engaging books. There are so many moments where you can get giddy over discussing and talking about it and being so excited, and they're just really engaging books. As a bonus, this book also takes place during the reign of King Saul, so you could kind of combine it with a study of those stories in the Bible, compare the biblical account with the historical aspects of the culture that Connie Lynn brings to the story. These characters are just really, really sweet and really, really cute, and I love them so much. I filmed a whole reading vlog just on this book with all of my like squealing, giddy, screaming reactions because I just loved this story so much, and it's so scriptural, it's so beautiful, it's poetic. So there's just a lot of facets to a Connie Lynn Cassette book. I think she's a little bit of everything, a little something for everyone, and I think these would be an instant hit. Okay, the next books that I would recommend are books by Barbara M. Britton, but in particular, I would recommend reading Lioness with your book club. It's a shorter read, so it could be less of a time commitment for some of your readers, but also Barbara's books are just so biblical. And all of these books are biblical, but hers in particular are so biblical and so scriptural that it is so easy almost to like have Sunday school style discussions about them because they have so much scripture woven throughout. It's so easy to come up with like discussion questions and think about the biblical application for today. And this in particular is a story that expands on the daughters of Zelophehad from the book of Numbers. And so they are just fascinating women, honestly, and it's intriguing to study their story and the implications that it had, but also imagining what it would have been like to go through and live through and how these women would have seen God's provision for them in a circumstance where we might be tempted to assume that no one would provide for them and that they would be left alone and to fend for themselves when in fact God was taking care of them all along. So it's really, really sweet in that way. They are very wholesome, and I think they would make excellent book club discussions. Also, there is a little devotion at the back of the book. So again, it's an excellent choice for your book club. Okay, another book that I'm going to recommend for a book club. Again, I would recommend any book by this author, but the reason I think this would be fun, I will get into specifically, and that is In the Field of Grace by Tessa Afshar. This book is technically on the older side. It's copyrighted 2014, so wow, over 10 years old. I don't feel good about that knowledge, but first of all, Tessa Afshar is an amazing writer. I don't know an author who does better research and does a better job of bringing the ancient world to life than Tessa Afshar. Like, she's truly amazing. Let me just read you her bio because it speaks for itself. Tessa Afshar was voted New Author of the Year by the Family Fiction-sponsored Reader's Choice Award 2011 for her novel Pearl in the Sand. She was born in Iran, lived there for 14 years, and attended an English boarding school before moving to the United States. Her conversion to Christianity in her 20s changed the course of her life forever. Tessa holds a Master's of Divinity from Yale University, where she served as co-chair of the Evangelical Fellowship at the Divinity School. She has served in Christian work ever since. I just think she's such an incredible person, such a role model, honestly, and her books are amazing. So again, I'd recommend any of them, but I think this would work really well because did you know she also has a 6-week Bible study of the story of Ruth, upon which In the Field of Grace is based? Back in, let me look it up, 2020, Tessa Afshar came out with The Way Home, which is a 6-week Bible study of the story of Ruth, and that was published with Moody Publishers as a part of their overall collection of women's Bible studies. And I just think it would be really intriguing to pair Tessa's nonfiction side by side with her fiction. It would probably take a little bit of work on your part if you were organizing it to kind of figure out, like, would it be go at your own pace and then do the Bible study, or would you break up the book into sections to go along with the Bible study, and then you could have weekly check-ins or discussions and really like dig into scripture. I think that would be so fun, and I would highly recommend Tessa's books. And the last couple of books that I really wanted to highly recommend in terms of church discussion groups, church book clubs, church women's groups, anything like that, are books by Heather Kaufman. Heather Kaufman is wonderful. I believe she actually has some YouVersion Bible study reading plans that go along with this that are in the YouVersion Bible app. So again, there is so much content to draw from here when it comes to engaging your group. Like most books I've read from Bethany House, there are also discussion questions in the back. I pretty much followed Heather Kaufman's entire journey from writing this book to eventually getting it published, so I'm a little bit biased in terms of how much I love it, but it is focused on the story of Martha and Mary and Martha and Lazarus from the Gospels. Now, not only is that already a popular choice for Bible studies and discussions, but Heather's writing brings it to life in such a unique way that I've never seen done before in terms of like typical Mary and Martha retellings. And I just think that this could lead to some really great discussions on biblical womanhood and God's plan and God's providence and God's sovereignty over our lives. It's one of those books that the first half, you just kind of feel really devastated for the characters and what they're going through. But as is typical of a Christian fiction novel, and also as is typical of the Gospels, at the end, there is this amazing, wonderful, miraculous story in which Jesus rises from the dead and conquers sin and brings overwhelming light and brings the characters literally up from dust. So it's really motivational and really inspirational, and I think it would be really exciting to guide a group through and really discuss and dig into that. Now, I have to say, while I think this one would make an excellent choice because the story of Mary and Martha is more well known, so there's maybe more to draw on there in terms of discussion, this book, Before the King, which is a retelling of Joanna in the New Testament, is quite frankly one of the most beautiful works of fiction I have ever read. It touches on themes of healing, of physical healing and emotional healing and healing from past trauma and difficulties, and what it is like when you really truly accept the gospel for yourself and it actually changes everything about how you live and who you are and how you go forward in a world that is maybe averse to the gospel mission and the gospel message, but how you keep being gospel forward in the midst of that. And this book of the series so far, I haven't finished book 3, but this one is definitely my favorite. It just means so much to me, and it's so poignant and touching and inspirational. So while I would recommend Up From Dust, you could also consider Before the King if you were wanting to go maybe a different direction. This story is just compelling and heartbreaking, but in all of the best ways, and I just can't, this book meant a lot to me. So, including my own books, those are the stories I would recommend for a book club or church book discussion group if you were looking for something like that. If you liked this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget, you can find more information about me, my books, and the free resources that I offer readers from the links in the description box below. My name is Jenna Van Mourik. I read, write, and review biblical fiction, ancient historical Christian fiction novels, and I will see you guys in my next video.